the Bible is a big book. Doing it in, reading it in a year, you need something like this, maybe with a daily reading plan. Pretty tall order for most of our kids, especially the little ones. And our curriculum does teach through the whole Bible. And I think we're starting year 3 of the Bible, and we're getting into the prophets and going to kind of wrap up the Old Testament and be moving into the New Testament in the coming months, which could be really good timing with the coming holiday season and that sort of thing. But you wonder if the kids get lost in all that. I know I did as a young one growing up in the church, and we'd hear these Bible stories, and some of them became very familiar. We heard them many times, but I never really learned the sequence until much later. And that was when I went to a Walk Through the Bible conference, and that came with materials and stuff to help you sort of see the whole Bible narrative, the story of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. And they had some kind of mnemonic devices, ways to learn that to where you knew where the Bible stories that you were so familiar with fit in a greater timeline. So I borrowed from them to come up with something that we can use in our Sunday school programs at Valley Bible. And I hope it's something you'll find helpful, fun, and that the kids will kind of get real familiar with, so that when we are telling Bible stories, we'll know right where in the Bible narrative that goes on. Now, there are some pretty cool Bible timelines, and I bought a couple of them, and I'll hang them up in the classrooms. They're good. They're not huge. It's a little hard for a big group of kids to have access to them, and there's a lot of text on them, and it's good for reference. I think you could use these, but I want to show you even another way. So here's what we've got. A set of cards that have about 22 of them that tell the story of the Bible. So we start with creation. Now let's just look at this first card. Creation, some really fancy artwork here I did. And then you've got a number, and that's number 1. And so these are all numbered as we go, 1, 2, 3, down at the bottom right corner. Also on the back, I've written a few little notes. You probably won't be able to read that. I was just sort of sketching them out. This one has the 6 days of creation and rest. And it also references over here what part of the Bible you would find that in. So that's obvious. Genesis chapter 1 and 2 kind of deals mostly with creation. All right, let's keep going from there. And then we're going to show you how we use them in the class. We have creation, followed by the fall, Adam and Eve, the biting of the fruit, the snake in the garden, notes as needed there, what happened in Genesis chapter 3, card number 2. Later we have the flood, followed by confusion. Think about Tower of Babel and the confusion of the languages. Patriarchs, which are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who is also known as Israel. They go into captivity. This would be the Egyptian captivity. But then there's the escape, and you'll notice some frogs and some flies, and the parting of the Red Sea, escape. Following that, they received the law with instructions for things like the Ark of the Covenant, and of course the 10 Commandments. Card number 9, wandering, the years of wandering in the wilderness. Then there is the conquest of the promised land. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. A period of judges. Of course, the famous judges would be Gideon, and probably the most famous of all notorious judges would be Samson, pushing down the pillars on the Philistines. We move into the era of the kings. Here's Jerusalem. Here is the building of the temple in Jerusalem by Solomon, not David. Then we have the split between the north and the south kingdoms. North being Israel, south being Judah. And then we go into exile again. We have the Babylonian exile, and this is just about where we are in our curriculum right now. But there's more to come. We have the rebuilding of the temple. There's Ezra's scroll. And then we have the rebuilding of the wall with Nehemiah gathering people together to sword in one hand and bricklayer's tools in the other. Then we have 400 years of silence. Shh. Jesus is born. Everyone's favorite time of year, the Christmas story. The ministry of Jesus. Jesus dies, is buried, and rises again. Then we move on to the Acts of the Apostles, like the Apostle Paul, hiking through the mountains all over Macedonia, Asia Minor, spreading the gospel all the way to Rome. And then Jesus will return. All right, so that is a long-form narrative of these cards. And what we want to do now is show you how those can be used. Of course, the first time we use them, we'll probably go through it like I did, kind of lay out the narrative and remind the kids of some of the stories. And then they'll get down to where they can just do each word as it comes. So let's talk about using this in the classroom. We've done it a few times. Kids love it. And one way, of course, is to have your helper, because it's a lot to juggle, have your helper kind of go through the cards, laying them face down on the table as we go. So let's do it as we did it in our class the last couple of Sundays. Ready? Creation, fall, flood, confusion, patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, known as Israel, captivity, escape, the law, wandering, conquest, judges, kings, a split, exile, rebuild the temple, rebuild the wall, 400 years of silence. Shh. Jesus is born. The ministry of Jesus. Jesus dies, is buried, and rises again. Acts of the Apostles. Jesus will return. All right, so that's kind of a fun way to reintroduce the Bible narrative. Now, what I tend to do is then go back and do it again from the beginning and allow the kids to pick where we are in the Bible narrative with the story for that day, or point that out to them. The other thing you could do is scatter these cards all around the room and let the kids reassemble them in order, and then we'll do the motions with them. So that's it. That's the Bible narrative. And these cards could be helpful to you in your classroom. It's also kind of a time filler and a nice way to introduce and a nice way to fill time at the end of your lesson. Thank you.